Armada Book 1 Chapter 9 The Hops. Sometime in January 2059 in the Treadle Galaxy, Andrew woke up early to get to the gym. Roden's victory party last night took a lot from him. After the workout, he got dressed and went to the bridge. On the way there, Olive appeared beside him, and last night Roden told Taylor to tell me that he would like to meet with GX1 at his council office before lunch. I have already notified the team and they are ready. Olive announced, "Andrew, Roden is ready for you. Let us go." Roden's office was huge, like a large hotel lobby decorated with a water fountain, models of the starships, sculptures from various planets, and several Inkeys at one end were seated around a long conference table. "Andrew, good to see you. Guys and girl, please make yourselves comfortable." Roden greeted them. Andrew noted, "Roden, we were just together last night." "So what's up, Roden?" Ellie asked. Roden started, "Well, remember the night at Vicky's house and before your wedding reception we were talking about hopping from your planets to our galaxy, and Gadden included hopping to the Mac galaxies? I was thinking that this is what we should be doing." He explained to the group what he and Andrew discussed over some brandy and fruits. "From my perspective, 3 BLY or so is not too far, maybe 50 hops would do the trick." Ellie said. "The idea is to create a network of hops to the Mac galaxies as well," Gadden said. Roden added, "The idea is to foster trade, exploration, science, and basically peace in the galaxies." Tony noted, "Of course there would be your usual bad guys. I would say a network we can control will help us defeat the bad guys and keep the peace. War is always a logistics problem, and a hop line from the front lines back to our supply depots is a definite advantage." Eric added, "Exploration would be a goal in itself. Each planet in different galaxies would be different. We may discover diamond and precious metals, or plants and animals or beings." Roger added, "And keep us on our toes. It's like getting the guys out of the couch and telling them to flex their muscles a bit." "Roden, now you can have your ice cream and brandy supply," Andrew quipped. "Those were some of the reasons we were talking about," Roden said. Ellie explained, "A direct hopping line to this galaxy from Earth would need at least 50 hops, a network to include all the Mac galaxies would be up to 300 hops. And you have to understand that a hop would have at least one incoming TP and another outgoing TP. This way the line is one way on one TP line, making it safer. The people or equipment going through would beam in using one TP and move over to the other TP or the outgoing TP so they can beam out." Roden added, "Taylor calculated it at 1,824 hops. Taylor, can you explain the chosen recommendation?" Taylor produced a large hologram above their heads of several galaxies from Earth to the Treadle to the various Mac galaxies. They noticed there were lighted points in the hologram. Taylor explained, "The lights are the hop points or hops. They are all in planets or moons. However, their viability would be subject to detailed study and confirmation. The data I worked on was based on our ship's navigation information and not detailed information of each planet or moon." Roden added, "We need to send ships out there and study the planet or moons and see the viability of a hop point or future settlement. The volume of hops is not too bad considering your objective. What will happen is if you choose your planets well and the location of the TPs in these planets, those hops can turn into communities, then into cities, then metro cities." Tony said, "I can assign 250 ships, and that would mean 250 planets are being studied at any one time. What will happen is that the hop line from Treadle to Earth can be established faster. The Max can assign another 250 ships to study the target hop planets that will connect their galaxy to the hop lines. Then we expand to duplicate the lines to form a network. The number of ships Roden wants is possible. To study a planet may take at least a month if 2 ships are involved. The data gathering alone is massive. But then if the planet turns out to be unusable, then that time is wasted and the ships would have to look for the nearest alternative." Gadden said, "That's true, and it could take a group of ships to look at 5 planets on average at least before they decide on the best one. We should be more thorough than fast." Ellie agreed. Roden nodded, "I completely agree with Ellie. We should be more cautious and thorough than fast. And as Tony said, these could grow into communities and cities. Plus we might discover some very useful minerals and resources. What we can do is to provide a roaming backup and security support for the stationary ships, say in one area, while Roden can do the same in one area. Ellie can coordinate the scientists that will work on each ship from the science staff we have in my group." Andrew said, "Do we have enough industrial TPs?" Ellie asked, looking at Gadden. "I know that the Mac planets have an oversupply of those. We can put them in the hangars of the stationary ships so they can basically serve as temporary hops while the permanent hops are established." Gadden said, "That's a good idea. The Inkeys also have a lot of those industrial TPs, some are gathering dust in storage. As Gadden said, we can establish the stationary ships as temporary hops. Roden said, why don't we just build hop ships and deploy them in space, cloaked and with somewhat elevated degree of protection and good communication systems, like the party place? Of course, not as beautiful as it is but functional. Andrew said, that's a very good idea, Andrew. We can shift the starship production in Hedad to build those hop ships. Gadden said, great idea, Taylor. How much capacity can we shift to produce these hop ships? Roden asked. Taylor explained, if they would be the size of your largest transport ships with a large open deployment area empty, then 30 of our starship factories can build 30 of those in a month using the new engines. The problem is the supply of the metals that we need at this rate. A large metal supply is out there, with these hops we can find them. Tony said, that's good enough if you add that to how much Hedad is making. Ellie said. Roden noted, so it's done then, we can start with outfitting our existing ships with the large TPs and sending them to target planets in Taylor's map. I will talk to the Mac Council so we can do so right away. If you need more of these large TPs, Roden, just tell me how much you need and I will have the Mac send them to you. Or you can send your ships to the Mac Galaxy. Gadden said. Why do you have so much of these TPs? Ellie asked. Well, our council figured that Macs needed to work and produce something, so they kept producing these without regard to demand. I guess as in most of our needs, we have an oversupply because we just kept producing. So now we have a never-ending task of exploration and expansion. Now we can accommodate more Macs and Inkeys to work. Andrew added. And have our supply of ice cream and brandy. Roden noted. Okay, Gadden, we will have all our ships outfitted with these industrial TPs and bring some for the Earth planets and Alan's Armada. Then we'll leave for the Earth planets and work our way from there. Andrew said. The large TPs are in a planet called Artisolus near our capital planet of Atleminus. I would suggest we bring at least 100 of Roden's ships so we can start outfitting them, so we can start with our project in earnest. Gadden said. So how long do you think we will wait to send the other 150 ships? Roden asked. Maybe less than 2 weeks. We can leave in a few days. How far are your galaxies from here? Ellie asked. Our major galaxy groups are about 4 BLY from here and about 3.5 BLY from Earth. But as you have seen, Macs are everywhere. Gadden said. So in a way we have 3 points in space and we are trying to network the sphere of space inside and around the 3 points. Around 4 BLY across. That's a big space. Ellie said. Roden noted, if you put it that way, you're right, that is a big space. Speaking of space, the void in my stomach is giving me a headache. Let's have some lunch. Andrew said, touching his stomach. Right, we have prepared for your stomach, Andrew. Let's go to the lunch area. Roden said. They went to an adjoining room and found a buffet table full of vegetarian Inkey delicacies. Great, no meat, Andrew thought. In a few days, Andrew's ships left for the Mac planet of Atleminus. A few days after, 150 Inkey ships under Gantley left for the Mac capital planet. Andrew's Armada was received like heroes in the capital planet. The celebrations were continuing when Gantley arrived. They were also treated like returning heroes. It took another 4 days for the celebration to die down. On the 7th day, Andrew and the crew holed themselves in the bridge of Andrew's ship. After a week of parties and appearances, I am done. Tony exclaimed. Gadden, why do you party so much? Ellie asked. It's the way we are. And besides, you are real heroes to our people. This is something that never happened to our people. The capital is usually empty, but Macs from the other planets started to arrive even before we arrived just to see you guys. Then the Inkeys came and the celebration picks up again. So if the next batch of Inkeys arrive, we will have another celebration. Besides, the Inkeys are loving it. Were you able to at least talk to the council elders? Andrew asked. Most of them. And they all agreed and believe it's a great idea. It will integrate the Macs scattered all over into one network. We may even discover some Macs we have never heard of. They're excited. In fact, when word gets around of our plans, expect that the usual overflowing of volunteers heading our way. Andrew continued, Gadden, we need to get started with the industrial TPs already. How long do we need to wait for them to install these on our Armada? Based on the reception we got, maybe 4 days. I will have the Macs bring our ships to Artisolus tomorrow. And another day to load the extra TPs. So 3 more days of party while we wait for our ships. Why don't we visit some of the closer planets? It's good PR. Roger noted. Can I just work on some of my pending projects? The GX team science officers have come out with a system to beam a cloaking device and initiating it. This is targeted towards the Macrees. Then we have a power generator project with the Inkeys and the chance of success if very high already. Then we have a project to modify the diamond beaming technology to beam not only diamond in designated areas but metals or minerals inside the ground or mountain. Ellie said. Andrew looked at her. Nice try, Ellie, but no, you may not play with your toys. You can have the other science officers do it but not you. You are a face to our team also. I understand that we'll have to force ourselves to go through this PR events that only Tony, Roger, and Eric enjoy. It's a job we need to do. Ellie added, I also want to screen the Mac scientists who would be joining us on our trip. Andrew nodded. Okay, we'll do all the screening on the last 2 days before we leave. Leave the major screening to the Mac scientists so that you'll screen only a few hundreds, which are still a lot. After 2 days, the Inkeys have stopped going to the parties and started to move a third of their ships to Artisalis. Ellie took almost a day deciding on the new scientists. Gadden also took a day screening all the Macs. It was almost noon when Ambassador Gilkin and Roden appeared in Andrew's bridge. GX1 also beamed in. Andrew was at the end of his regular morning inspection tour when Olive appeared beside him. Andrew, Ambassador Gilkin, Roden and GX1 are in the bridge. Andrew nodded and Olive beamed him to the bridge. Good morning, guys, Ambassador Gilkin. Andrew greeted. He was already seated with Gadden while Ellie, Roger, and Roden were standing. Sir, remember our concerns on long-term organizational structure of our forces? Roger asked. Yes? The Macs, our council and the human governments have agreed to reorganize the Armada. They have agreed to create a council of 9 equally composed of representatives from the 3 species which will form the top leadership of the Armada. Roden said. In other words, we do not report to our government anymore? Ellie asked. Ambassador Gilkin explained, yes you still do, but this is like a matrix. While here is a line organization from your top to the lowest of the Armada people, there is a horizontal leadership council that will govern all Armada operations and functions. Everything is fluid at this point, but right now your orders come from the council of the 3 species. Roden added, so in the future if the Armada takes in another species like the Marintis, a Marinti representative will sit in the council that will legitimize the order on the Marinti elements of the Armada under your command. For example, there is only one Armada commander, you, and Gantley will report to you and follow your order even if he is part of our space fleet. If for example, a Marinti commander joins our group, its highest officer will report to you but not to Gantley unless there was previous mission agreement. And the ranking problem? Andrew asked. Ambassador Gilkin looked at Andrew. That's a little tricky. First of all, the Macs have never been in any military organization. You can give them ranks but then they lack the basic training and technical know-how your officers and crew have. They have no concept of military hierarchy. Then the Inkeys have very detailed ranking, in 36 ranks and several sub-ranks based on function and experience. It would be very hard to reorganize the Inkeys along your present ranking, which is too simplistic to them. The Inkey ranking is actually related to how their society is organized, and this means it has been existing for more than 1,000,000 years. So the council simply agreed to a list of ranks, and the list includes all the human rankings and the major Inkey ranking. The Macs will all be designated as first lieutenants in the human ranking system and will be promoted along and within normal human conditions. Promotions may be received from the line organization as well as the horizontal leadership or council. The Inkeys will get promoted, say by Roden, but also by the council. The human line organization may recommend to the council promotions of, say, an Inkey, which can render a final decision to promote, or the Inkey command can recommend promotion of a human to the council, which will then render a decision. Gadden added, as Ambassador Gilkin said, everything is fluid, but at least the multi-species Armada command structure now has a direct leadership. Right? Roden added, one of these fluid issues is a common training planet specifically for Armada use. The objective is to ensure a basic and more common crew intelligence requirement, which is at least 10 times the existing human requirement. The courses take into account the Mac's inability to kill and avoidance of violence, which is really counter to human military thinking. Once the support functions of the organization get integrated, we can locate the main or central command in the same planet and then maybe designate 3 galaxy commands according to the species. Much later we expect to integrate the financial structure of the Armada. There are really a lot of major issues to resolve. Ambassador Gilkin explained, the Human Council will be based in Planet Los Angeles and would include Harold's Undersecretary, your Armed Forces Chief of Staff, and led by Timmy. The Mac side are in the Mac capital and the Inkey would be in a building beside Roden's office. This makes it clearer now. All our orders would come from the Council, and that's all I need to know. I understand the organization is evolving due to technology, historical or species differences, and possible increase of species involved. Andrew said. But the field operations and final decision will be centered on you, Andrew. Roden noted. I understand. Good. Gilkin nodded. That evening at Andrew's bridge. We would be leaving tomorrow night, Andrew. Olive said. How many scientists did Ellie take in, Olive? 46,520. I thought she was looking only at a few hundreds. She wanted to get at least 400 per ship, including General Alan Cook's Armada, and 5,000 for her mother's university and 15,000 for Vicky's science center. What about Gaddon? We are taking in an extra 600,000, mostly builders, technicians, and assistants to the scientists. Gaddon did not take in any taggers and hackers because we have the most experienced ones already. That's good. We are also taking with us 2 large supply ships full of provisions for the months ahead, operated by 4,000 max. You only need 40 to operate these 2 transport ships, but they have a lot of provision technicians, as they called themselves. Gaddon just let it go. Our ships are overloaded with provisions from the over-generous max. How many TPs are we carrying? We have 800 industrial ones and 400 medium-sized but long-range ones. They must have a lot of overstock. Gaddon underestimated their stocks. They have over 280,000 industrial and 360,000 medium. Some of these were produced 250 years ago. It seems their factories just kept producing nonstop. How large can these industrial TPs transport? It depends on how it's configured. If the base is configured wide, the range is shorter. In its normal configuration, it can transport 2 Sabres or 4 40-foot containers on cargo trucks. If you have 2 of these sending and 2 receiving, the volume of traffic can be large. The Max and Inkeys also developed a system about 200 years ago to monitor the in and out in a network of TPs, so the network can be efficient and some shipments may be redirected from congested hops or the number of installed TPs increased in those congested areas. So it would be possible to use up all their stocks then. Andrew said. Yes, that is possible, but will not happen, since with their stocks starting to deplete they would now be producing more at a faster rate. So our first order would be to fly to Planet Los Angeles. Andrew said. After 12 days, Andrew found himself in their house in Planet Los Angeles and found out that Vicky was on Earth for a speaking engagement committed several months earlier at a hotel in Los Angeles. He beamed to the hotel room Vicky was booked in and went down to the seminar hall. He peered inside and saw Vicky at the mic, so he waited outside sitting at the register table alone. After a few minutes, Dr. Towns came out and saw him. General, what are you doing here waiting? I mean, you can come inside and not wait here alone. Call me Andrew, and I don't want to disturb Vicky. She looks so serious. She wants to appear that she is serious, but not really, because the topic is what she is known on Earth for, but we all know out there that she is no longer interested at this level. I'll just sit here. Where's Olive? Have her accompany you. You look so alone here. Why are you here? 5 of the scientists attending here were my college friends, and I want to recruit them. Vicky also wants to recruit some of the physics and astronomy department heads employed with the UC system. So after the seminar we will invite them to Vicky's room and beam them to the spaceport. I guess my wife is working hard. She is, now she's keeping 18-hour workdays. She has a human, a Mac and an Inkey scientist as personal assistants. Her job is so high up there, it's not even funny. And now it will be even more engaging. You know what's funny? Almost all of the scientists, young or old, that we brought to Planet Los Angeles were assigned an Inkey or Mac scientist each to teach them. And you know how high and mighty and smart they think they are. Now they are like kids having a hard time learning the vast amount of new theories and technologies. Their egos are shattered to pieces. One scientist who was so high up there and adamant about his space warp calculations dropped his jaws when he found out there was a better way. Most scientists forget that there would always be a better way, a more advanced and entirely different way of doing things. There is always a denial period, then slow acceptance, some longer than others. You and Dr. Davis did not seem to have a problem with this, you even became servers. Call me Gabby. No, we don't. Well, a little bit, but we got over it quickly just like that. Some of the guests at the reception were really government scientists that we know, and they were surprised why we were serving drinks and appetizers. But you know, I am proud of Vicky and your wedding, to be part of the crew that made it happen. The best in history. Her dress alone is probably worth billions of dollars in diamond. The diamond paperweights we helped give away were probably worth over $1 million each, and we gave away thousands of those. But your story is what moved the guests and me and Gina. As Ellie said, love will always find a way. Andrew just looked at her. As a scientist, to me, love is a fascinating thing. It is in all probability in our genes. But how did General Rivers' genes tell him to do what he did, and how did Mr. Pine's genes tell him to act on General Rivers' request to buy the ring? keep it and later give it to Vicky in the future. And if you think about it, this has been happening throughout our history, to bring people who are meant for each other to be together forever. Maybe love is a waveform that permeates all genes and let them talk to each other in an unimaginable way to help people in love find each other. And this mechanism is passed on as our experiences and physicality are passed on. Thank you, Gabby. I think I understand what you are saying. Maybe that's why simple kindness is infectious and the act of helping is an enjoyable thing. Yes, exactly. And you see this all over the galaxies. Why is that? Good question. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the after party. I just had to retire early. We partied for several more hours after. It was such a blast dancing in outer space. There was no sense of time. Andrew, when I get married, can I use the party place? Anytime you want. Tell that to Gina as well. I don't even know what to do with it after the wedding. Vicky is turning it into an alone area, a seminar place, an observation area and a party area for dignitaries. Vicky goes there to be alone with the stars. Gina and I go there too to be alone sometimes. After 30 minutes, Vicky's talk was over and she rushed out for the ladies' room and saw Andrew and Gabby talking. Vicky shouted, "Why didn't you call me so I can meet you?" She ran to kiss Andrew, then ran to the ladies' room. Andrew was not able to answer. You know, she's so love-struck. We know, she's not like this before you came into her life. She's just so happy. I'm glad to know that. I have to leave you and make sure my recruits do not scatter all over the place. Andrew just sat there for a few more minutes when Vicky came out. I can smell you from here. Andrew greeted Vicky. Bad or good? No, you don't. She was running towards Andrew. Vicky embraced Andrew tight. I missed you so much, Andrew. I missed you too. Gabby told me you are so busy and working 18-hour days. I am trying to organize the scientific talents and assign them to areas where they can be most effective. The volume is just so large. We are talking about tens of thousands of scientific talents into thousands of opportunities. Why don't we go to your room? I want to tell you something. Andrew, we can't. Not now. Tonight at my old house. I don't want my target recruits to go anywhere. I was really going to tell you that your job became even bigger, much bigger. I thought you wanted something else. That too. Just stick with me while I recruit these people. Gabby said you'll beam them to the spaceport. After that have Gabby do all the talking so we can be alone. I guess that's possible. So how's Treadle? Roden and I in GX1 decided to do something that will change a section of intergalactic space for BLY across. That sounds interesting. You don't sound excited. When I'm here with you, nothing in the universe excites me or matter at all. I love you too, Andrew, so very much you just don't know. The conference was done and they saw Gabby leading her recruits to Vicky's room. We'll see you later, boss. And Andrew, keep cool and don't get their egos get into you. Gabby, wait for us at the port. She's right, Andrew, these guys think they're so smart and high up there. Yes, I understand. Gabby told me how their egos get shattered, then the denial and acceptance phases. Right. But let's move fast so we can leave them all with Gabby at the port. Vicky ran to a group of scientists. Dr. Erickson, 1 minute please, sir. I need to show you something in my room with the other UC department heads. She talked to the scientists as fast as she could. Dr. Erickson looked at Vicky. I have a meeting with the NASA people in 30 minutes and I have to be there. We'll just go to my room, less than 5 minutes of your time. Please, this is very important to the scientist community, to all of you. Okay, but I leave in 5, okay? Erickson declared. Yes, definitely. I just need to talk to Dr. Diller, 1 minute please. Andrew saw her pleading again with Dr. Diller, who does not want to do anything with Vicky because she's not even involved in any major or popular project or group on Earth. She saw her quietly tagging the targets. I promised Dr. Erickson 5 minutes, I also just need your 5 minutes, sir, please. Dr. Erickson faced Diller. Come on, Dr. Diller, let's just go and leave in 5. The other scientists don't seem to care and didn't even talk to Vicky about her part of the seminar. They just seem to want to see the item, whatever it is, and leave. Andrew quietly followed them to the room. When they got there, Gabby has beamed out already. The room was a standard twin, so the scientists felt crowded. Dr. Erickson started, so Vicky, what is this item you want us to see? Tom, let's go, Vicky said. The scientists found themselves in the spaceport. Vicky directed them to the main glass hall. They were all quiet and just looking. Vicky saw Gabby and motioned her to come over. Dr. Towns will show you around and answer all your questions. Please bear in mind that the non-disclosure you signed before I spoke in the conference covers non-disclosure of any of the government information and facilities you are about to hear or see. The federal government insists that you take the task seriously or face a stiff penalty and prison time for breach of national security. I will see you all later. Gabby, take care of them. Yes, boss. Gabby said. Come on, Andrew, let's go home. Be Andrew? Gabby waved at Andrew. Vicky and Andrew left for the TP room. She did not even answer the questions the scientists threw at her while she was walking away. Andrew could hear Gabby. Gabby started, "Hello doctors, my name is Dr. Gabby Towns. You are group 158 of scientists that we are recruiting. We will show you around the spaceport, a starship, a planet, and a party place." Andrew and Vicky went out for a quiet dinner and spent the night together at Vicky's old house. The next day, Vicky woke up early as usual and prepared breakfast for her and Andrew. She woke Andrew up and dragged him to the breakfast table. "I hope you will not make me drag you every morning. It's not always that I get dragged, so drag on, Vicky. I like being dragged. So what's this big project that will span 4 BLY of space?" Andrew started the story by pointing at the dining table chairs. "The idea started on these chairs in this house. Remember when Roden came over for dinner before the wedding? Then he told her what they talked about that night, then what happened at the reception, then at Roden's office, then at the Mac planets and the parties. It was all over in over an hour. Andrew, I will welcome Ellie's scientists. But no, I will not get involved for the moment. Let Ellie handle the project scientists for the moment. I will try to get involved probably in a year from now, maybe. I was just hoping to see you more often. But your involvement is not critical. Ellie can handle it. I know she'll be so happy doing this. I have a few scientists I can assign though. So what are you up today? More recruiting. But I can do that later. Let's go to the beach in the morning and watch a movie this afternoon. Sounds too good for me. Like a second honeymoon. You can always think that whenever you're with me. They had a long walk on the beach called Zuma, and at the end of the beach they saw a small store. As they were walking towards it to get a cool drink, a person cried out that some kids were caught in a riptide. Andrew looked around for the usual lifeguards. There was none. He called Olive to send a tagger and tag the drowning kids and move them closer to shore. Olive was quick and the Mac knew how to keep his breath. The Mac tagger was beamed out once the tags were in place. Olive beamed the kids underwater and had them appear almost at the shore. That was quick and nobody will ever know what happened. Vicky said. Andrew nodded. Yeah, nobody would ever know. Let's go in there and buy something to drink. Then they watched a movie, something Andrew has never done for the last 30 years. Vicky toured him around a new mall and bought him several new clothes. These are the first sets of clothes I have ever bought for you. I'm really happy to be doing this. I'm happy to have new clothes. The last time I remember having new ones was before the war. The suit I wore at the wedding was rented. I will make sure you will always look good. That's my job. Now I like to go home and change into something cleaner. From Vicky's house, they went to dinner at the same restaurant Vicky proposed to him. At the restaurant, some of Vicky's old work friends came over to their table. Hi guys, how are you all doing? Vicky asked. Dr. Preston answered, We're still at the lab. You know, it's like you suddenly dropped out of this world and went to become a hermit. None of our friends seem to know where you were. You have no project, no grant, no office, no speaking engagement. I just had one the other day. This is my husband Andrew. So that's why you got married. Dr. Dante said. Yes, so I'm out of the circuit. She said. She did not want to keep the conversation further and Andrew seemed annoyed. They bid their usual farewell to Vicky and left the restaurant. I guess you're really out of circulation now. I want to tell you something important, Andrew. Look, we are already married, you don't have to propose again. No, it's just that I'm pregnant. Andrew was quiet, but that's great. Is it a boy or a girl? What will we name her or him? It's just several weeks old, Andrew. I never thought I could be pregnant again. I guess this would be the effect of the TPs because right after we moved around using the TPs I had my menstruation back. So now I'm going to have a baby. I really don't know how to react. I'm happy and this is something I thought would never happen to me. Just then Andrew saw Olive coming out of the ladies' room. Olive's here. I wonder what's up this time. The pair kept quiet until Olive stood in front of the pair and said the president would like to see them in 10 minutes. It's about the networking plans. Andrew paid the bill even if they have not finished eating and left for the car. Once inside, Olive beamed them again to the White House and following the usual route they found themselves walking towards Daisy's desk. Daisy stood and greeted them. The president is expecting you too, you can go right in. And congratulations, Mrs. Mann. Here we go again. Vicky said to herself. As expected, the president congratulated her and Andrew for the baby, then by Julia, then by General Alan Cook, then by Harold. Vicky thanked all of them and insisted, I just told Andrew a few minutes ago. Well, you can expect several galaxies to know by now as before. Albert said. So what's up on the agenda? Andrew asked. Well, Andrew, we were discussing your plans to network the galaxies with TPs. How long do you think this will take? Alan asked. Olive, can you show the target hops please? Andrew said. Olive appeared and produced a holographic image of the galaxies, and the hops appear as bright spots. Olive gestured. The Earth galaxies are here, the Inkeys are here, and the Mac galaxies are here. She motioned her finger to form a large triangle. Andrew explained, thank you, Olive. The bright ones are the hop points or hops. We can establish a working network in less than a year. We were looking to install at least 2,000 hop points, and it may take another year or two to complete an extensive network. Initially, Earth's main gateway would be Planet Los Angeles 60 MLY from here so as not to draw attention to Earth. But later on we will have cloaked hop ships floating in space to facilitate travel of not only people but goods and hardware. Albert noted, the most important point is that the Earth is kept far from the main TP connection to remain isolated for security purposes. I knew that, that's why we planned the network to start from Planet Los Angeles. But you have to understand that the network may be far from Earth, but it would be around our solar system pretty much because the travel is not only towards the Inkey and Mac galaxies but away from them as well. After a year or two, we will establish hops that will lead us away from the main circle bounded by the three parties. Andrew said. Olive moved the hologram and showed spots away from the sphere bounded by the three participants. These are the target hops moving away from the sphere. Well, that's good to know. If you think about it, as we increase trade and travel, the risk that we need to out the secret earlier than we plan to increases also. I am sure that the project will need a lot of our scientists, engineers, builders, military and logistic support. It's a good thing, but it poses challenges that we must address more sooner than later. Harold said. I am all for it, if you ask me. I have added some more countries to our operations. India, Israel, Mexico, Brazil, South Korea, Albania to name a few. And we already have some countries for Commonwealth status already on the table for congressional approval. So we are pretty much on track, maybe ahead of the game. Alan added, the TPs are good for this development since we cannot give ships to these countries for them to travel to their chosen planets. Precisely my point. Julia said. I have brought a lot of TPs with me, 800 industrial ones and 400 medium-sized ones, and that's because that's all I can carry. The Macs have thousands in storage, and the TPs I have were produced 150 years ago. Tim was right at the reception. While the project may make it harder for us, we do not need to out this if we can prevent it. It makes it harder, but it's not something we cannot handle. That's my position. But I am all for the increased trade and barter exchange. The new countries may find new minerals and resources in their chosen planets to bring to the table, and this is good. Albert said. But as Julia gets more countries on board and the countries travel through network with more people and material, the risk of the whole thing being revealed is getting higher and higher. And we should be prepared for this eventuality. Alan said. My point exactly. Harold said. This project was really because of ice cream and brandy. The Inkeys and Max love those two products, and it was what pushed them to consider this grand project. And later they realized it's a good thing to have. Andrew explained. Andrew, to digress a bit, my new role now is to be nearer Earth, maybe up to 80 MLY away, so you would be doing the traveling to secure our networking positions out there. I am sorry, Vicky. Alan said, looking at Vicky. No apology needed. Besides, I told Andrew I would like not to be involved, but will reconsider after a year or 2 years. My job is too engaging. With the new TPs I can get beamed from the Treadle Galaxy and be here or in Planet Los Angeles in a day. So I can be with my wife when the time is right. Yes, the timing must be right all the time. Vicky agreed. What are you guys talking about? Julia asked. I guess the baby makes timing a lot easier. Albert added. What's easier? Andrew asked. Easier for the two of you. Alan answered. I am getting lost in our conversation. What are we talking about? Vicky asked. That was my question. Julia said. Harold laughing, let's get back to military deployment issues. I have finalized a plan to deploy 100,000 personnel off-world, rotating every 6 months. We would need them in the network and in the US planets. The other countries must deploy their own, and they must stick to very strict security measures so the secret will not explode out. Andrew said. We only have settlements in 8 planets, and 5 of these planets are settled mostly by Vicky's personnel. Even then, the settlements might move to better planets as we find them. So the settlements are fluid except for Seattle, Portland, and Denver. Julia said. And we have projected to increase to 10 within a year. I spend a lot of time recruiting, and Ellie, in one day, gave me 5,000 Mac scientists, which is good but only as complement to our Earth scientists. Right now we need all sorts of smart people, from geologists, to engineers, to chemists, researchers, a lot of assistants, and we have less than a quarter of the need fulfilled for the 8 planets. There's a lot of work to be done. At any time 20% of our scientists are constantly on a recruiting mission. Vicky explained. Whatever happened to your recruiting missions, Julia? Andrew asked. I talked with the heads of state of at least 3 dozen developing and small developed countries, offering the statehood for their country. The numbers are not good. But our recruiting operations are a runaway success. Easily you would be looking at 12 million in a year's time, and our people are overworked processing the applicants. They rejected your offer on the grounds of? Andrew added. Nationalism. Frankly, I think that they simply could not handle the change. Some countries are so corrupt they feared that with superseding U.S. laws, they would have to shut down their rackets. Albert explained, it's really hard to concretize the offer when you cannot tell them about our off-world objectives. But then, the nationalist-centric mentality will remain until people think of themselves as a nation of one planet. We are still working though. Maybe we can do a better job as we go along. One of the things we are good at is logistics. With our surplus funds we are able to send the basic necessities off-world without congressional approval, since we course them through the commissary. But if it gets bigger and if we want to use the money we have saved up in the treasury, we may need to go through the process. Right now we have several $1 trillion in the CIA accounts. Harold said. I think that if you look at the long-term scheme of things, we are doing quite well in the 3 or so years we have started. It's just that the territories or issues we have to deal with are not in the books, and we have to figure things out as we go. And science is not the only area. There's planet infrastructure, where Julia's husband is also facing the same issues. Then there are the bad guys. Albert said. One of the things we found out is that there are so many alien life forms passing through our solar system and scanning Earth and moving on. Some of them looked very advanced, while some are at the level of technology the Marinti have. We just watch them and see what they will do. Often they don't even slow down and move on. Alan said. The TPs would enable us to respond quicker to any point in space, and this is a big plus. Harold said. Julia added, this networking thing is a no-brainer. We are basically establishing the superhighways that we need in the future. Travel by ships through space is not the best way to go. We need several industrial TPs for Earth. I want to put them in 4 military bases and 5 government complexes. Harold said. That would mean you need 36 industrial TPs. Remember, these industrial ones can transport a pair of fighter jets. So if you only need to transport people and small gear, you would only need the medium-sized ones. Andrew explained. How about half and half? Harold asked. I like half and half in my coffee. Why don't we add more medium TPs for our top-level offices so we can travel to LA from Washington faster? Albert asked. The Macs and the Inkeys use TPs like drinking water. We can do that too, but it will create a security issue. For one, the power requirement is so large we cannot connect these to the grid. We have to put them in highly secured areas, which are counter to the idea of efficient travel and transfer of goods and hardware. Add the personnel issues. We have to plan this out properly. But we can start with what Harold needs. See how we handle them and move from there. Also remember, we have ships and the spaceport up there. Andrew said. Okay, so we're all on the same page with the networking project. Albert concluded. So we can go now? Vicky asked. Albert nodded. Okay. Andrew and Vicky left and got back to Vicky's old home. She got 3 bottles of wine and 2 wine glasses and told Tom to beam her and Andrew to the party place. It was empty except for a few sofas, small and large tables and chairs. The place was not dark with the stars and the sun providing the light, but it was quiet. She put the wines on the table and Andrew sat down on a sofa. She went to a console and made the transparent panes to turn dark and shield them from the sun on one side. The party place became dark and what they can see are stars on the uncovered panes. I come here to think sometimes and to be alone. Now I'm with you. She heard the vent start to produce air. I like looking at you here. Vicky opened a bottle and filled up the glasses. She sat close to Andrew. I like looking at you too. They looked at each other for a long time. They quietly drank the wines, having a quiet, almost whispering conversation until they were sleepy. They just let themselves fall asleep on the sofa.